morning, everyone. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. And today we have joining us from the very get-go off the start, Justin Wolfers, second time on the show, aka Fed Lasso, econ professor, University of Michigan, public policy scholar, and founder of the very brand new and newly launched Platypus Economics here on Substack. Thanks so much for being with us, Justin.
Great pleasure, mate.
It's good to have you on again. You know, when you were on the first time, I thought we'll never get this guy on again because he's too damn smart.
And then you called me and you said we could have matching shirt day. And I was
Yeah.
really excited to have
Yeah.
matching shirt day. I don't know what's going on with Maritza.
She didn't get the email.
Oh,
I effed it up. You guys. I'm sorry. I effed it up. We have a lot to get.
Either that or since you were on last time, she's gone MAGA. She's gone MAGA. Right.
that happened.
You know,
Happens to the best of us. We've all got relatives, they've gone MAGA, and now my co-host is gone MAGA.
I haven't
Senator-
on the reunion, so wish me luck.
Yeah.
Oh, Senator, you're the one who still has red hats. So
Yeah, I know, but I don't wear them when the email said wear blue. Okay.
okay, I messed it up. Okay, we have so much to talk to you about, Justin. You're everywhere. First of all, thank you for taking the time to be with us because you are literally every time I turn on the TV, you are on TV. I want to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly related to our economy in just a minute. But first, can we go through a little bit of a primer with some overnight news on this new deal with Iran? Is that good with you too?
Would love it. Yeah, would
Okay.
love it. Yeah.
So, President Trump this morning is in France. He's at the G7 summit. We hear that there's this deal that's been signed between the US and Iran. But here's the thing, no tax details of this agreement have been publicly released. The vice president says that none of that deal will be released until Friday. So, you have a few more days to wait. Meanwhile, the New York Times editorial page this morning had this to say, quote, President Trump lost this war, and they say his biggest achievement in the ceasefire framework is the expected reopening of the Strait of Hormuz to global shipping traffic, which will eventually reduce the prices of energy and other goods. But of course, that's merely a revision to the pre-war status quo. So my question to you both is, what do you make of this? And Justin, specifically to you, I mean, is this going to help bring us back to where we were economically before he started this war?
John, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Well, first of all, for administration, it's all about transparency. This isn't very transparent. And second of all, I can't wait to see what's in it because the art of the deal guy, I will be shocked this deal is better than the JCPOA, which was a deal cut by Obama. And the reason is because that deal had our European allies then, along with China and Russia, and people on the ground, so you could trust but verify what they were doing. But he ripped that up. The President Trump ripped that up the first few days in office because he claimed that it was a bad deal. Let's see what he comes up with. I'm going to tell you, I will be shocked if there's people on the ground in Iran that can make a determination whether these guys are following any kind of rules, if there even is rules in this. So what we have is we've got a president that arbitrarily went into Iran because he thought it was a good idea and because he thought the presidents for the last 47 years were idiots, and got us into a place where we've increased energy prices in this country by 50%, pissed off the whole world because, by the way, he increased energy prices for everybody in the world. And now he's going, oh, what do we do? Because I never thought about the Strait of Hormuz before I started bombing, and said, now, so we're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. And that's going to be the win, by the way. That's going to be the win. Take us back to where we were before, only I will question whether the prices will drop. But if they drop a buck, I'm going to be thankful that they'll still be a buck and a half higher than they were before we went into Iran. Okay. So this is where we are. The interesting thing I want to hear from Justin after you go through all the BS that I just went through is the economy going to move forward or is it going to move back? I mean, we're seeing inflation at 4%. And it's interesting to see the folks from the Trump White House get on and say, oh, God, it was worse than Biden. No, it was less. I think it was 3% when Biden left office. And we had the strongest economy in the world when Biden left office. And we had allies in the world that had our back when Biden left office. now we go into wars everywhere, and that's kind of the way it is. Anyway, Justin, you're up, buddy.
Wow. Wow. And I can go for 38 minutes in a row without breathing, right? Okay.
That's right.
Look, question number one, and it's a totally serious question, is there a deal? Um, so there's a bunch of reasons I asked that. So let me start. Financial markets responded positively to this, but their reaction was small. Um, Stocks rose by about as much as they fell when Trump would have an angry tweet day. And so I think you can interpret that as being not war is over, but boy, we're hopeful that this is a positive signal, but we're a long way away from being convinced. So that's just like looking at financial crisis. What do they seem to be telling us? They seem to be telling us this was a step in the right direction, not war is over. Secondly, I'm a veteran of the trade war at 2024. They 2025. They don't actually give out medals or anything for that. They're all veterans of the trade war. Um, but we actually saw a very clear pattern through that period, which was the president would start enough of a fire, pull over a foreign prime minister or president. They'd walk out the front. They'd say they had a deal. They'd stage a press conference, and text was never released. And text was never released because there wasn't a deal. There was usually a deal to create a deal. And then it went off to the nerds and wonks to sit and argue about. And then while they're arguing, that's a process that, for frustrating reasons, always takes too long. And I'm sure the senator spent more time thinking about that than I have. But then the president would just wake up with a new brain fart of an idea and just impose a new tariff. And then you're back to period one again. And so what we learned from 2025 is the president is quite incapable of leaving well enough alone, of reaching a deal and actually following through. And I think if the Iranians were smart enough to have learned anything, it's that you let the guy have a press conference and he doesn't care what happens after. So that's another sense in which you might ask, do we have a deal? The third is, yes, we have a deal, but it's a secret. You know, I have a girlfriend. She's very beautiful, but she lives in Canada.
Hey, what's funny about that? There are beautiful people in Canada. I mean,
Yeah.
Because that's what you say in middle school and high school when you don't really have a girlfriend, Senator.
oh,
Recent surveys show 50% of Americans get my jokes.
I'm sorry about that. I'm just a few miles from Canada. We actually have girlfriends in Canada.
I am just a few miles from Canada too. Look, we're all Canadian on the inside because we're polite and kind. So here's the thing: the logic. The girlfriend in Canada is the easy way to tell the story. Let me try and make this sound fancy for your next dinner party. What I want you to do is think like what economists call a Bayesian. A Bayesian says, how should I update my views given what you just said? Okay, so if I have an amazing deal, I would definitely run out and hold a press conference and show you the text right now. The fact that I'm not doing that tells you that I don't have an amazing deal. It's actually a little bit, it goes even further than that. There's actually a result called an unraveling result, which is, okay, if I have the best ever result in the history of the world, I would definitely want to show it to you. And if not, then I don't want to show it to you. So then all I learn is, well, it's not the best result ever. Okay, now if I have the second best possible result, and I know if I don't show it to you, the only thing you'll infer that is that I don't have the first best result. Then what I want to do is show it to you because it's better than what your expectations are, because you're expecting me somewhere between the second best and the worst, right? And if I have the third best result, I don't want to be lumped in with all those losers between third best and worst. So then I would definitely tell you. And in fact, that keeps going all the way through, which is if you have anything other than the worst possible result, you want to, given that every better result would have led people to show the text, you want to show the text so no one thinks you're the loser with the worst possible result. What that means is that if somebody's not willing to show you their findings, their deal, you should infer it's terrible. I just said it in the language of economists. Let me say it in much simpler terms. If you're in a dating app and the person doesn't have their photo up, what would you infer?
She's the most beautiful woman in Canada.
Probably. Oh, Justin, I love it. I mean, you make some really great points, and it leads me to a question I was going to ask later, but let's get into it now because throughout the last 4 months, throughout this war, we've seen the president make announcements repeatedly that result in massive swings to the markets, to global oil prices. And earlier this year, we actually saw oil traders bet millions of dollars moments before some of Trump's posts. So, do you think this is part of that whole thing? Do you think there's anything nefarious here going on? And if so, who would even do anything about it?
Okay, so this is a fairly it I understand the point. A lot of people say the president makes crazy announcements all the time and it causes financial markets to go nuts, and I can't see any possible rationale. And so what people do, and it's a very, very human instinct, is we all wanna try and make sense of the world around us. And the only way to make sense of it is he must be insider trading or his best mate must be. Um, I want to add one more possibility before I'm inexorably drawn to that conclusion.
Okay.
Um, it could just be he's a chaotic son of a bitch. And the more you think about this, the more that actually seems like it could actually be the case. Um, look, what people are taking. So once you do that, then you're now less convinced simply logic dictates it must be insider trading. Knows, well, actually, it could be he's just not very good at presidenting. Um, the the evidence that people bring to bear that there's a lot of insider trading going on, I find remarkably weak. Um,
Mhm.
it's because I could go looking. So, say the president makes an announcement Thursday at noon, I could go looking to see what happened at 11:59 a.m. or 11:58 a.m. Or I could go looking on Wednesday, and I could go looking at oil price futures or S&P futures or federal funds futures or options or oil companies. And there's so many places I could look. Eventually, I'm going to look enough places I find something that smells a little bit suspicious. So I've seen this play out. Look, I know conspiracy theorists want to conspiracy theorize, but I've seen this sort of thing play out enough times in my career where someone says, "Oh, I saw something funny in financial markets. It must be insider trading." Often it's some guy on Wall Street who lost a ton of money and needs to explain to his boss what
Mm.
trade. Often life just throws out like stuff randomly. I'm not saying the president's not guilty. I'm saying that the case that he is guilty is stunningly weak.
It's a good point. Okay, it's a good point and some rationale.
Stuck here because it gets to a point John was making, which is so you started the show by asking, did we win the war? And John sort of tipped off, I think, the absolutely clearest way forward, which is, well, we went in there because we don't like Ayatollah Khomeini. Fortunately, we now have pissed off Ayatollah Khomeini. We went in there because they had nuclear material. Fortunately, they now have nuclear material. We went in there, the Strait of Hormuz was open. The Strait of Hormuz might well yet be open. So there's no world in which we won this war. Winning and losing is unhelpful. It's not useful language. We are where we are. We want the best decisions we can get. So
Mhm.
I don't love, if there's a deal, I don't love it because I wouldn't have wanted to go to war. Having said that, if the option is bombing the crap out of more people, I'd kind of rather we take the off ramp.
Totally.
Um, in which case, the question is, why did we go there? And I think that's where John was going. And I want us just to be much clearer about this. This is incompetence. This isn't a foreign policy ideology. This isn't four-dimensional chess. This is an incompetent White House who simply didn't do things like get Americans out of the Middle East ahead of time, talk to any of our allies, build up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or do any of the work you would do before you wanted to be successful in a foreign policy adventure. Uh, this is just a clown car of very, very bad executives running a shitty company into the ground. And the thing that's really sad about that is what I just called a shitty company is the US government.
Yeah, the United States. Yeah. I have one more. Go ahead,
He's
Senator.
he's done it before like 6 times, so, his his management style isn't exactly what I would call successful, even though he thinks it is.
But so I want people at home to hear very clearly competence matters. You might like the fact that the guy has an anti-Washington, the president has an anti-Washington sort of rhetoric, and you might hate how Washington works, and you might have any number of grievances, very legitimate, very real grievances. But you're still better off picking someone who knows how to run a government than someone who doesn't.
Yeah, 100% correct. You can pick all the people off of Fox News you want to put in your cabinet, but if they don't know what the hell they're doing, the people who pay the price is the citizens of this country.
Yeah.
Mm, I couldn't agree with you more. Competence does matter. I mean, the person he just put in for, as a national security advisor, the one that took,
DNI.
DNA.
yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? Okay, why don't we just go down to the rest home and get somebody out of the rest home and do it? Okay. I mean, it's crazy. It's just nuts.
Okay, I have one more headline before I want to ask Justin all about platypus economics. But I'm going to I'm going to see if I can do this and share my screen here. Oh, look, it worked. Okay. So in today's Let Them Eat ballroom news, the Washington Post has new reporting this morning. It says that records reveal Trump's ballroom is now estimated to cost $600 million, with taxpayers expected to foot half the bill. So this is now $400 million more than originally detailed. And for you, Justin, isn't this the same kind of project overrun that prompted Trump to go after Fed Chair Jerome Powell in the very beginning? And what does this mean for us as a greater whole, as consumers in this country, in this economy?
Yeah, so there's a very attractive parallel to run, which is the president tried to put Jay Powell, the Fed chair, in jail. And officially it was because the claim was that he lied to the Senate when asked about cost overruns with the Federal Reserve building. Now, first of all, if you want to make it illegal to lie in politics, I think that would be fantastic. And I've got some suggestions for people we could jail. Secondly, it's transparently the case that what he was trying to do was not worry about cost overruns at the Fed. He was trying to take over an otherwise independent institution. So I think the analogy feels, right, so I get why you want to raise it, but actually I'm going to reject it out of hand.
Okay, I like that.
Let's not accept any of it was about cost overruns. Let's actually now come back to the ballroom, and this is exactly the discussion John and I were just having, which is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I walked past the White House and it looks like someone has knocked over the entire East Wing.
They have.
They've bombed it. What happens if the Iranians get to us? I was really upset by it. I would think the American government would hunt down whoever did that and bomb the living shit out of them, that they've taken the people's house and destroyed it and done so without congressional sign-off. Let me actually come back. It's a beautiful metaphor for the trade war and the Iran war, which is he literally destroyed first and didn't have a plan.
Mhm.
Literally. This is not a metaphor. He didn't have a plan. They knocked it over. He's like, I'm talking to the architects. And I don't know about you, but I put a spare room on a house once. And one of the things we did is we talked to the architects before we knocked any of the drywall out. Now, I could just be excessively conservative, but that's how I do it. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have congressional approval. It wasn't
Right.
me. That's literally what happened with the trade war. He didn't go to Congress. Turns out the whole thing was illegal. We upset a whole lot of people for a year, and then the Supreme Court ruled the whole thing was illegal on the very first day, and every dollar of revenue raised, we have to mail back. And then the Iran war, he more or less decided to annex Iran the same way he did the East Wing without a plan. So this is the thing about the ballroom is we can say without a plan with the Iran thing, we're being lightly metaphorical. There is nothing metaphorical. For the first time in Washington, D.C. history, I'm going to use the word literally and mean literal. There literally wasn't a plan.
Yeah, the real problem here is that a president will do whatever a president wants to do, unless Congress steps up and does what they need to do, which is what the forefathers set up. And by the way, Congress could have gotten backbone and stopped any one of those things that you just talked about, maybe with the exception of destroying the East Wing, because he did that before everybody even knew about it. But the truth is you're right. He did it. He didn't have a plan. He went in and just did it, just like he did in the private sector, just like he ran a casino in the ground. How the hell do you do that? And back, Congress sets back and does nothing, and he does it over and over and over again. By the way, when the election comes, even if Democrats win, it isn't going to stop. He's going to continue doing it because it's how he's always done things. That's why the guy's gone bankrupt as many times as he had. And successful business people don't go bankrupt. They can say they do, but the bottom line is if you're a successful business person, you got your shit in a pile, you don't do this stuff over and over and over and over again and stiff every one of the people you do business with.
Well, unless you have no repercussions.
I have a very interesting fact I want to share with you. It's very, very interesting. My daughter, she's 16, she's doing AP exams, and she just did the AP Gov exam. Very little known fact that she just taught me. Did you know this? The US actually has a Congress. I don't know why they're using outdated textbooks at my daughter's school, but I read about it. It seems very interesting.
That's fascinating. You're teaching us so much, Justin, and I want to get to we're gonna pivot a little bit because I want to get to what you're doing here on Substack, but then throw some more economy questions back at you. But it all comes back to this. So you launched. I'm gonna share my screen again. You launched this, which is Platypus Economics. It's this new channel on Substack. I read all about this and why you're doing this, but I want in your own amazing Aussie accent to tell our viewers why platypus and what you're aiming to do with this.
Yeah. So, look, we all have our own theories about what ails the world right now. Um, Mine is I think the world would be a better place if we all knew a little bit more economics. Um, the radicalizing moment for me is actually to look at another field, medicine, where they've discovered these incredible vaccines that can prevent enormous amounts of illness and injury and death. And there's not enough trust, public trust, in what the doctors are doing, and people won't even take the vaccines. Now, my field, economics, we don't have literal vaccines, but we have metaphorical vaccines. We have ways of understanding the world that we think can lead people to live better, richer, fuller lives. And we think very simple things like don't bomb up other countries for no reason, don't start trade wars for no reason, stuff like that. And so my goal, honestly, truly mission driven, is I want to teach the world economics. And so I the world got more interesting in terms of I had the ability to do this directly, say today through Substack, tomorrow through YouTube. We have a podcast, and I'm going to be small d democratic. I rather do what we're planning to do the second half of the show, talking about the economic logic. There's so many people in the world who are very good at calling the president names and have partisan views one way or the other. That space is crowded. What I want to do is I want each of us to understand our world a little better. And I honestly am naive enough. I said, John laughing at me. I'm naive enough to believe that truth will set us free and we all understand the world a little better. We'll all be a little bit better empowered to make good choices.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm part of that crowded space, and I'll tell you that I don't want to be a part of that crowded space. I want the president to be successful. I want the president to put in policies that helps working folks and folks in family farm agriculture and small businesses. Unfortunately, he hasn't done that. And the part that's frustrating to me is those same people that elected him in 16 and again in 24 still support him after he's put the boots to him. They say stuff like, oh, it'll get better. The tariffs will be better if we just wait a little longer. And 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 the truth is that the the president ran on not going into wars. He ran on lowering costs. He ran on all this stuff. He's not done any of it. So it's really hard for me to keep my mouth shut on all this bullshit that's going down. And the other thing is this, not unlike the Iran deal, they'll walk out and they'll say, you know what? We've lowered costs in the grocery store. Oh, by the way, the price of gasoline is $1.50 a gallon, for Christ's sakes. They piss on your shoes and tell you it's raining every time, and I think you're right. I think there is no trade deal. There's an agreement to not a trade deal, no deal on Iran. There is
Right.
an agreement to get a deal on Iran. And I think you're 100% right on it. Never thought about it. So you've enlightened me this morning.
Beautiful,
Well,
beautiful
I
moment
think
for all of us.
you make a really great point, though. I mean, I did not do well in economics in college. I don't know. I had a great teacher too. I'm sure Senator Tester knows him, Professor Barrett. But I didn't have a Fed lasso explaining this to me like like econ for dummies, which is really what I needed. And I think in so many areas of this, we hear the president just putting out blank statements and it's really complicated stuff and people just take him at his word and I love this idea of educating people more. So I guess the question right now I have for you is what is the most important economic story right now in this moment?
The most important economic story for the current moment is the war in Iraq, unquestionably. Uh, the resolution of that, I wrote a New York Times op-ed. I've made a number of videos and Substack posts where I've just tried to illustrate what the economic consequences are. Let me give you a very, very quick backstory. Pete Hegseth put out the first number from the administration and said that the war has cost Americans $25 billion so far. He went on and he updated that and said 29 billion. Now, what happened was a bunch of liberal media were like, oh, that's terrible. That's a huge number, blah, blah, blah. One problem actually is very few people understand the difference between millions, billions, and trillions. And actually, that's not a big number, but it's also not much of a story. See, what Hegseth was doing was literally counting the price of the bombs that were sent into Iraq. Thinking about the cost of a war in terms of the price of the bombs misses the fact those bombs have created a massive crater in the global economy. That we're looking at oil price crises, that we're looking at the Fed raising rates, that we've seen markets react violently, that geopolitical risk is high, causing firms not to invest, and on the list goes. And so I spent some amount of time trying to figure out not the exact number because that's a fool's game, but showing people how, in a way that you can do it at home, how simple ways of looking at this lead you to believe that this war has cost the United States hundreds of billions and possibly trillions. And then we do the next important step and we say, which means for the typical family, this war has cost you thousands and potentially tens of thousands of dollars. That's why I say Iran's the biggest economic story. Now, here's a funny little secret. In the background, the third round of the trade war just broke out, but it hasn't gotten any headlines. And so I have a piece coming out about that. I think we're posting it tomorrow, bringing people up to date with what's going on with the trade war. But these are inflection points in America's position in the global economy. We can be a country of 300 million who are inward looking and we trade only with each other. And that's as far as we go. And, if the president wants to follow North Korea's policies in that direction, he's welcome to. The other alternative, though, is to be part of a much bigger globe of 8 billion people, which means 8 billion potential entrepreneurs and 8 billion new ideas. And I think obviously that's where America's future lies as well.
Senator?
Look, I mean, I think that I think it's interesting. Can I just move into it a little bit?
Yes.
Second?
It's your turn.
I want to talk about production ag economics, farm economics. So
Ooh.
he put the tariffs on. It had a major impact on our markets and had a major impact increasing our input costs. He went out to a field in Wisconsin during a rainstorm and did an interview on Meet the Press. And he said, farmers love me because I gave them I believe it was $28 billion, acting like it came out of his bank account. The question I have for you, being an economist, and me being a family farmer, production ag guy, is I think it's a pretty shitty business model when you have to depend upon the American taxpayer to make your books balance. What's your view on that?
John, you're trying to get me in trouble now.
No, look, I get them. I get the subsidies. Guilty. Okay. And so people say, well, you shouldn't bitch if you're getting the subsidies. But I'm still going to bitch because I think there's a lot of things we could do to make the farm economy work and have capitalism work within that marketplace that's not going on right now. And the solution has always been, and I've been in this business for damn near 50 years, the solution has always been cut them a check. Don't fix the markets, cut them a check.
Yeah.
And I think as my folks told me when they left this place in 1978, if you start depending on the federal government to balance your books, you're going to go broke.
Right. So let me agree with some things and then get in trouble on some other things. And the good news is you might never talk to me again after I tell you my views.
No, we don't want that.
No, I guarantee you, you won't upset me.
Um, okay, so the easy agreement is like making it harder for farmers to buy diesel or fertilizer or tariffs on imported equipment. The first page of the tariff handbook says don't tariff inputs. That's how you make Americans less competitive, right? It's just dumb. So again, this comes back to competence. There exists an argument about whether it's possible to have smart tariffs that are a good idea. It's a really interesting argument. We don't need to have it because we have dumb tariffs. And that's back to competence. We have dumb tariffs that really do hurt American business as well as raising prices for Americans.
Agreed.
I will say the farm sector is one of the most effective lobbying sectors in the economy, and I don't say that as a compliment. And so you've got, and many fellow farmers have sort of an up by your bootstraps, F the government, we can get it done, except they're the first in line for corporate welfare. What I find striking is they're first in line for corporate welfare, and the guy who testifies will always be a guy who looks a little like you, John. He's got a rough-hewn shirt and he's got a baseball cap and he looks like he's a real American, salt of the earth, and I want that guy to succeed. You and I also know that most American produce is created by large corporations. And those large agricultural corporations are not, in fact, the sort that tug at yours or my heartstrings remotely. So this, I think, is an outrageous bait and switch by a deeply self-interested lobby. I've done enough having a go at your guys, your lobby group, the farmers. Let me come back now and actually take some responsibility for my tribe, the economists. Why does this resonate so much? And I think it's because people understand the economy as stuff that you make. And for our parents' generation, manufacturing and agriculture were most of what an economy was. And so we always have these ideas, well, we need people who make stuff. We can't just have we can't just have baristas at cafes and computer coders. And the answer is my tribe has failed to explain to people, actually, we can. And that's what we really, really want. Let me explain. 200 years ago, agriculture employed roughly 80% of America's workers. That's because basically it took an adult's full day of work to create enough food that they could eat. So if we needed everyone to eat, everyone needed to be on the land. Then we got so freaking good over the next 200 years at creating agricultural products, fruit and vegetables and meat and so on, that today we only need to employ 1 in 100 Americans to feed all of us. And so it's 1.2% of the workforce right now is agriculture. Notice food didn't get worse. We didn't stop eating. It didn't go away. Just the amount of work required to create the food went away. So we still eat terrific food. Not as good as Australian. Then what happened was, okay, great, we've freed up a bunch of the workforce, let's move into manufacturing. And we created cars, and you know what the economy of the 1950s and 60s looked like. Well, guess what? The same thing happened with this productivity revolution now where cars are made by robots, and we don't need half the population in factories in order for all of us to have a car and a washing machine. Well, that productivity growth means that washing machines now are cheaper than they've ever been. But the typical American family is getting richer and richer. Do you think they want a second or a third washing machine? No. So just like we only needed to grow as much food as we wanted to eat, we only need to create 1 washing machine per household, 1 car per household, 1 dryer per household. Now we've freed up 80% of the population to do other stuff. All right. Once I've got enough food on my plate and I've got all the manufactured goods I need, the washing machine, but also the timber frame construction of my house and stuff like that, what do I want? Well, what is a good life? What I want at that point is an education for my kids. I want high quality healthcare. And yes, damn it, I want to go to a cafe and have a high quality coffee made by an artisanal barista. And people shit on the service economy. And they're like, no one's making anything. They're trading services back and forth. And it's like, because we already made all the physical stuff we need. We don't have a need for more food and more washing machines. But you do need more economics teachers. And you're like, yes. The point is, an economy doesn't change because the product moves from being heavy in a physical sense, right? A pound of beef weighs a pound, to light, an hour of economic insight weighs 0 pounds. I produce nothing with any weight, but the relative value of those two things is not measured in weight. And too often we think if it has no mass, it has no value, and that's a mistake. And my tribe has failed to help people to understand that the massless economy is actually producing what people want and need to a great extent. As a result, what do we want to do? We go and we subsidize the economy that produces mass, farmers and manufacturers.
Is your phone ringing, Senator?
It is. And we'll have to let it go. Can you mute me?
You can mute yourself. I
Can't?
can't mute you.
No
You
mute?
can't. You
Got
can't.
In fact, it sounds like you've got an answering machine.
He does.
My
He
wife-
does.
John, what is it like in the 1970s?
You know what? I would disagree with you, but I'm a proud old hippie, and I don't know what to do. Whether to
I
stay
don't know what to do.
old or grab on to the new. Yeah.
I am glad I was not tasked with staffing you in the Senate, because if I knew that you had an answering machine, my head would explode.
Yeah, well,
They did.
I've also got a fax machine. By the way, when I was on the school board and the superintendent in the 80s said, "We're gonna buy a fax machine," I said, "Why? Why would you do something like that?" My God, it doesn't make any sense. It cost like $500.
So advanced. This is a great point, though, that I wanted to ask Justin about. Okay, so we're talking about the answering machine, the fax machine. We're talking about all of the progress we've made in our industrial revolutions and getting really good at making stuff. And I have my friends' kids who are just graduating from college, and they're worried about the future. They're worried about the job market. They're worried about AI. They're worried about our technology getting so great that it's going to replace so many jobs, and it's going to replace so many entry level jobs that create kind of this institutional knowledge going forward. So what should we be what should that conversation look like right now, Justin? And what do we need to be doing to, continue to advance, but also make sure we have a workforce and jobs to fill?
Yeah. Let me try and tie some strands together from where we've been, which is,
Okay.
you've asked arguably the most important question of our time. And, we're at minute 38. Now, I'm not having to go at you. It's that we had to go and talk about the bloody East Wing. And we had to talk about the rest of this goddamn circus. And I'm not kidding when I tell you I am so angry that we've spent a year and a half talking about bullshit when we are at a critical moment, and we as a country should be deeply engaged in this question. This is the future of our kids' lives. This is the future of our economy. There's nothing bigger. And you and I got sort of minute 38, and we only did that because you were exceptionally good at your job. Most other people never get there. I spend all day, every day yammering on cable TV. We never talk about anything that matters. So, look, that's just a prelude. Let me come back.
But that's why this platform is so important, because we have the time to get to it. And I didn't say this earlier, but I need to. Please go subscribe to Justin and Platypus Economics, because really he makes my brain, which is very much English and art driven. He helps me understand this stuff. So he'll help you understand this stuff too. Okay, go ahead, Justin.
Not only that, but then if you subscribe to his podcast, you'll be a Wolverine for life.
True.
Oh.
A Wolverine and a platypus. It's incredible.
It's great.
The two must go together. Look, honestly, Marita, that's what led me here, which is I was doing a lot of cable TV hits, and I could only talk about the outrage of the day rather than anything that mattered. And that's where I decided to go independent. And that's the value of what we're trying to do here. Okay. There's so many different ways of telling a story. Let me actually try one more. So you said, you've got a lot of friends, kids are graduating college. I got a lot of friends, kids going into college, and they say to me, Justin, you're a labor economist. You follow AI very closely. What should my kid do? I have a 16-year-old at home as well. And I say, well, I know what they shouldn't do. Don't go into copy editing. There'll never be another copy editor hired ever again. And I watch what the young students are doing at Michigan, and the answer is don't go into coding. None of them are going into coding. They think that Claude is going to do all the coding in the future. And I would say don't go into languages because the last translator has been hired. Large language models are almost perfect translators. And the thing you'll notice about everything I'm saying is I keep using the word don't, but I never could figure out what to tell you to do. Let me try. If you have the opportunity to play NFL football, you should go and become an NFL footballer because I think AI is not getting rid of that. AI is not a substitute for football. Now, a lot of us don't have that opportunity. So the question is, what does the do for the rest of us? And I want to pause on my discomfort right now because I actually think that's the story, which is I'm a pretty well-educated economist who studies this stuff, and I don't know what to tell my kids. And actually, I think that's the most honest answer I can give you. I don't know. Let me give you a couple of candidate answers. One, there's a bunch of occupations. So the important thing about AI is a cognitive revolution. It's doing cognitive work, writing and what the appearance of thinking and so on. We've had many, many technological revolutions in the past, almost all of them I know John loves the stump jump plow, which was an Australian invention. We had the steam engine, we've had electrification. Almost all of those have been a substitute for brawn rather than brains, right? The thing that's different about John and I, look at John, he's a big muscly bloke, big bulky bloke. John's got brawn. Did you play football, John?
Yeah. So I wrote a book called, you need to read that book if you want to know my sports career. It was not illustrious. I'm just telling you, it wasn't illustrious at all. So,
Well, let me tell you, I could have gone to the Nerd Olympics. There's no book waiting to be written about me. It's
I played for 3 days, and as a freshman, I got ran over by a 230 running back by the name of Rocky, and every bone in my body cracked. And my folks told me I was going to get killed playing football. And while I was laying on the ground, I said, "You know what? My parents are right."
And then you went into politics?
I went into music, man. Played the trumpet, and,
I love that. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
story. Um, so, look, these past revolutions, they've been a substitute for brawn mostly, right? Think about the modern American factory. It used to be big, buffy blokes lifting heavy things. Now they push a button and something else lifts the heavy thing, right? So the value of brawn has fallen. And those of us who are from the other side of the tracks, so the thing that's different this time is this is a cognitive revolution. So it's mostly about brains. So earlier technological revolutions hit blue collar workers. This one's going to hit white collar workers first. Let me personalize it. What is my skill? The one skill I have in the world is I read a lot of stuff and I turn it into simple English words. What does a large language model do? It reads a lot of stuff and turns it into plain English words. So for me right now as a white collar worker, I feel like a Detroit auto worker in the 1970s. I can see the robots coming and they're coming straight at me. So first thing is they're coming at white collar workers. So now let's come back to your question, where should kids go? Well, you could stay in physical occupations. A short order cook, that job is going to remain roughly the same for the next 30 years. But those are typically not highly paid jobs. So I'm going to say, let's not recommend people go that way. Some people say that the future is going to be much more EQ than IQ, EQ, emotional intelligence. Computers can't do emotions. This is what's useful. I really liked that idea. It sounds very enticing for about 10 minutes. Let me now tell you about a study. There was a study in which they asked people who are sick, what are your symptoms? Could you email them to me? And half those people, they sent the email to a doctor, and the other half, they sent it to a large language model. And then they sent those responses back. Now, you won't be surprised the large language model, AI, did a better job at diagnosis. It's a computer. It's very, very good at diagnosis, right? But then they asked the patients, who do you think really cares for you? How well cared for did you feel on this visit? And the people who got the email back from the large language model felt that they were more personally seen than the people who got the email back from the doctor. Right? So you look surprised, but I don't know about you. I know some doctors.
Well, I do, and the thing that I'm surprised about is I do know some doctors that would apply to, but I also know some doctors that wouldn't, and it's disappointing, but yes.
My brother's a doctor, and I love him very much, but he gets tired. And when he gets tired, he gets cranky. And he can actually be a little bit mean when he's tired. I hope he's not watching. Oh, actually, I'm from a big family. No one knows which brother. Oh, no, only one's a doctor.
Oh, yeah, only one that does.
But the thing is, computers don't get tired. So this idea that EQ is the future, that's not obvious. Now, a different answer is what we really need in the future is creativity. And computers can't do creativity. So, in fact, there's a guy at Wharton, Ethan Mold, very, very good AI guy, who runs this course where the aim of the course, the MBA students, I think it's called entrepreneurship, I might have the name of the course wrong, is you and your teammates have to come up with a new product under $60 that will get sold to undergraduates. Right. So, Maritza, what would you come up with as your submission to his class? You've got 6 weeks to work on it. I only give you 18 seconds. What,
Under $60 that is
student-
what?
something for students would
Oh.
buy.
Probably a little stuffed animal that can clip on your purse.
That's a great idea. Love that idea. Okay. And then you'd work out the business model around it. But you and your team would work on this for a few weeks and you come up with the best possible solution, right? So Ethan had his students do that. And then what he does is he runs a survey. He says, would you buy this product? The one thing he did this one year, he was really cunning. He then sent the same assignment to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT got to send in its submission as well. And more of the students said they wanted to buy the new invention created by ChatGPT than the ones created by the MBA students at Wharton. So you might think creativity requires humans, but this experiment says very highly motivated, very smart MBA students were not as creative as ChatGPT. So I think we're still figuring all this out.
Yeah.
It's almost certainly the case that we're not going to. It's hard. Let me just stop there because that's the only thing I'm going to say that's definitely right.
Well, I just want we have to go in a moment, and I hate to end on that note because we like to end on some hopeful notes. I didn't even get to ask you about crypto, which we had a whole episode on earlier, and the whole crypto scheme emblazoned on this UFC fighting ring the other night. But I do want to ask you if there's anything right now, any economic data right now that gives you hope or makes you optimistic.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I'm going to give the short and the longer answer. The short one is actually things are not as bad as the angriest of the liberal podcasts would have you believe. The worst has not come to pass. And I think that's actually really important, and we should say that out loud. Could we be better is an important question. It might be the most important question, but are things terrible? They're not. There's 100,000 million billion gajillion reasons to be optimistic, and we need to remind ourselves about them every day. I woke up this morning and I looked at the sun, and it was the most radiant ball of sunshine I've ever seen. I woke up this morning and I looked at the GDP numbers, and I discovered that I happen to be in the richest country in the world. I compared those GDP numbers to our history and discovered that today is the richest day in the history of the world. So I woke up in the most beautiful place as part of the richest country in the history of the world at the richest moment in the history of the world. I know that mortality rates are falling and life expectancy is rising. I know that large language models, which are threatening on the one hand, are also coming up with extraordinary scientific discoveries on the other. I think that if we manage the current moment well, it's an extraordinary few decades ahead of us. And we should just, always remember the glass is really damn full, but we're fighting over the part that really matters, which is, can we make it fuller? I'm going to say just for time now, I'm just going to say, can we make the milk creamier and fatter? Can we make this life more beautiful? And the answer is yes. And that's why we're going to keep doing it. But I think we should do it with joy in our hearts.
I love that. Senator, you have any final thoughts before we let Justin go?
Look, more butter fat in the milk is always a positive. I'm just telling you. I, I agree with you, and I love your optimism. I do. I go back to something that you pointed out that's absolutely unequivocally true, and that is that competence matters. And I think if you have incompetence, uh, and it can, and throughout your administration, and you're expecting good things to happen, they're not gonna. And I agree with you. This is the greatest country in the world. We have some things that we can improve upon, and we should work on it. But I'm going to tell you, the next president's got a hell of a job. He's got to reestablish our relationships with our allies because that's the most important thing. He's got to make sure we have a economy that works for regular folks out there. They've got to make sure that we do have a military and a um, we just put enforcement all over law enforcement and military that they're able to do their jobs. And I can tell you that you're right. The sun is bright, the grass is green, the birds are singing. But I'm going to tell you, if my grandparents and parents had done what this administration's doing, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Yeah.
We all need to start a list. I'm going to add to it the bright sun. I'm sorry for everybody who can't see this. Look at this little baby deer, this fawn born in my yard yesterday. So
So beautiful.
we have to find the positives. Justin Wolfers, we had so much we didn't get to. I hope you'll come back and join us. Again, everyone, go subscribe to Platypus Economics. You won't regret it. You're just a wealth of knowledge. I had a whole thing, other thing I wanted to talk about. So I hope we'll have you back.
Sounds fun.
We didn't scare you off? Okay.
I just want to point out one thing in the comments. There's a guy by the name of Herman Jacobs that claimed I have a rotary phone, and you're right, I do have one. And he also claimed that his doctor had the bedside manners of an alarm clock, and I don't think that's much. I don't think that's much of a compliment. So, you know, I by the way, Justin, thank you for being on, and I loved your comments, and I think you pointed out stuff that we often jump way ahead of instead of talking about
Yeah.
basic foundational issues, and I really appreciate that. So, thanks. And I also like Herman Jacobs' comments. I can tell that he's got a mind that doesn't work like normal people, and I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to let Justin hop off. The senator and I are going to wrap up our show. Thank you so much, Fed Lasso, Justin Wolfers.
Take care.
Take care, man.
Okay, there we go. Oh my goodness, I love him. I could just talk all day. He's just so wealth of knowledge.
I know. I mean, look, he's got a really nice way of saying things that doesn't piss you off, even when he's saying stuff you don't agree with. But by the way, I did agree with his analogy on the lobbying from farmers, but it's not family farmers that are doing the lobbying. It's actually
Right.
does the lobbying. Now, family farmers wear the hats that support the agribusiness, and and they don't fight hard enough for research that lowers costs. But that's the way it is. I mean, they fight for it, but they just don't get it.
Yeah, I really did want to ask him about crypto, but I think that would have been a lot longer conversation. He had to go.
Yeah,
I do want to mention
yeah. Go ahead.
you have to go.
Well, I got to work on a combine. I mean, I got work to do. I got real work to do that AI can't
Okay,
do.
okay.
Yeah.
Two quick things. First of all, I want to let our viewers know and our listeners know one thing that happened yesterday we didn't talk about yet. California Governor Gavin Newsom says that he and his wife are now being investigated by Trump's DOJ.
Does that mean he's thinking about running for president? Probably against Donald Trump because he doesn't much care for the Constitution. I got to tell you, it is getting old how this president has politicized law enforcement and the Department of Justice in particular. I think it's sad.
Yeah, and we didn't get to ask Justin about this headline that was that Social Security shortfall is expected to accelerate. He did do a whole episode on his platform about this, though, so go check that out. And then one more thing here, one more little headline. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. I've heard it's not easy being green. So feel bad for the reflecting pool in our nation's capital because it seems the algal blooms just can't stop doing what they do best. Yes, after that $14.2 million repair project, which was awarded by no bid contracts. It included painting the floor of the pool American flag blue. Well, that pool is green again, Senator.
What else did the 14.2 million get us? Taxpayer dollars besides painting the floor blue.
Well, they're supposed to fix the leaks too, and I'm not sure if that happened. A spokesperson for the Interior Department says, "Don't worry, they installed a treatment system called a nano bubbler. This algae is gonna be gone in no time."
Perfect.
Yeah, and then you were on Chuck Todd's program over the weekend on New Sphere, and I want to embarrass you for a moment, if I could.
Again,
Okay. Because you had a lot of comments about this.
don't wait till I talk to my son-in-law because she's always saying I'm picking on you. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, listen, don't throw it out if you can't take it back.
Yeah, I can take it back. Go ahead.
Okay,
What-
okay, okay. Some
Right.
people said, first of all, you were wearing like an NFL, like three
I was
quarters
wear
it.
was wearing a shirt that my daughter had given me, they moved to Indiana and are diehard Colt fans, and it felt good, so I wore it. Okay,
So
now
someone said,
I live 50 miles from Havre, Montana, and their mascot is the Blue Ponies. And I could have said, if I'd have been quick, I could have said, no, this isn't the Baltimore or the Indianapolis Colts. This is the Havre High Blue Ponies.
cover blue ponies, yeah. Well, somebody said, "Holy shit, is that the Indianapolis Colts on your sweatshirt?" Here's another comment. Tester looks like he's ready to jump in, so fit. Uh, People are asking for your flat top back. And then one of my friends wrote me and said, "Wow, Tester's looking svelte." So, people liked your look, except for they want the flat top back.
But they didn't badmouth the Indianapolis Colts because it was very, very, very conservative. Just a little horseshoe in the upper.
Yeah, no, they were excited about it. They were excited about it. So you're not wearing a Colts hat. What does your hat say today?
Well, take a look at that bad boy. Montana Hunters and Anglers.
Hmm?
What's the bottom word? Let's see. Let me look at the bottom word. Oh, action. This is it's probably their pack. Who knows? You know,
Montana hunters and anglers. We have some funny comments. Sean says, 2 weeks, the algae will be gone. 2 weeks. Yeah, there's a deal right around the corner. We are so close to getting this deal. And Herman says, "Go Blue Ponies." So I think
yeah,
you and Herman are new friends today.
now we got it. Anybody that's got a name like Herman, I should have named my son Herman. That's a great name.
Yeah. Debbie wants a nano bubbler. Me too. All right, I gotta
Well,
go find.
I'm gonna tell you how you used to take care of algae. You threw barley straw in, and it's got something in it that takes care of the algae. But I don't know that a big old round bale of straw in the reflecting pool would go over very well.
Wait, do you have any barley straw?
No, don't have
Because we could send some to 1600
any.
Pennsylvania Avenue.
Send him a bale. Yeah, if I had an idiot cube, we could do that. Yeah.
An idiot cube. That's where you get barley straw. An idiot cube of barley straw.
In straw's light, so that's like a 30-pound bale of straw.
Oh, I could throw those all day.
No, you couldn't. You're the truth.
Okay, everyone. This has been a long episode. We've had a lot of meandering different pivots here, but thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for waking up with us and having some coffee, having some fun, talking the economy and money matters with Justin Wolfers. Again, go check out his Substack, the Platypus Economics. You're going to learn so much and you will be entertained because he's actually quite funny. We also want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank all of you who joined us here, both live and later on. You can find us on Substack, YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram. Did I miss anything?
You're comprehensive as usual.
All right. I think that's all. I think that's all we have, folks. Have a wonderful day. Go enjoy. Find something positive today.